What's something that I would really love to see come out for Necrons? I answer this question and more in this month's Q&A. Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, another Q&A for you, and my last video of 2017. So first of all, a massive Happy New Year to all of my subscribers. I hope you have a good time. Right, I've got loads and loads of questions to answer in this video, some really good, exciting questions. Before I get onto those though, if you would like to keep up to date with the wonders of Warhammer 40k, then please give me a sub and hit the bell button so you don't miss an upload. Okay, so let's get on with these questions, and if you have another question for me, please pop it down in the comments box below and I'll answer it on next month's Q&A video. Right, okay, so the first question I have is from Richard Morgan. In actual fact, he has a few questions. So he says, which Necron unit would you say is a must-have or an auto-include? As a regular opponent to Necrons, I know which units I don't like to see my opponents take. Or is there one particular unit you'd like to try to get in your list if possible? For me and my eldar, it's Dark Reapers and Swooping Hawks. For my Space Wolves, it's the Wulfen and Fangs. For the Harlequins, it's the Solitaire. And for the Dark Eldar, it's the Wyches. Okay, so a must-have stroke auto-include. Well, I like to play a lot of different lists with my Necrons, so I don't necessarily have a unit which always ends up in my list. However, the units that I do tend to go to if I need maybe a bit more stability in the army has to still be the Necron Wraiths. That 3+ invulnerable save, the 3 wounds, the good movement, the decent close combat abilities. Well, they're not awesome, but they're decent. Just make the Wraiths just a good all-round unit. So I think the Wraiths are probably one of the auto units that I try to get into the army. Not necessarily an auto-include unit, but I think it's a great unit to have in a force. So that would be my answer, I think, the Necron Wraiths. However, I think you should be automatically including some form of anti-tank, whether that be heavy destroyers or tomb stalkers or the Tesseract Arc. You're going to need some sort of anti-tank equipment in your army, but for me, I would say Wraiths are the unit that I tend to be drawn to quite a lot. They're very versatile in the army. Okay, so the next question that Richard has was, given that the 2 chapter approved Necron stratagems are 2 command points, over a 5-turn game that would mean 20 command points. I have 2 or maybe 3-part question. Okay, firstly, can you build an army that's going to give you enough command points to use any of the stratagems multiple times during a game? Probably not. I mean, when I played you, Richard, I had all those troops and I was able to get a reasonable amount of command points, but at the detriment really of the actual army itself. I think at this moment in time, without a codex where most of the units are pretty expensive, it's quite hard to get an uber amount of command points in the army and still make the army work. So the answer probably is no. Certainly not 20 command points as you suggested there. So I think no is the answer to that one. Okay, so then he says, if you just used the 2 from chapter approved, how many times do you think you would need to use them to put you in with a chance of winning the game? I don't think necessarily you need the stratagems to win the game. Personally, I still prefer just the reroll stratagem. I think that's probably the most beneficial to us at the moment, especially with our heavy weapons where you're doing D6 shots or D6 damage. Necrons seem to be very, very random on their shooting, so the command point is incredibly useful for that. Of course, it's useful for morale as well. So I don't know necessarily that we need these new stratagems to win, but obviously, you know, they can be useful. His final part of the question is, do you feel that the command points for these stratagems are costed right? Probably not. Yeah, 2 command points for some of those abilities seems a little steep, but that seems to be Necrons at the moment. We seem to be paying through the nose for everything, so it seems quite normal at the moment. But yeah, I think probably a little bit expensive. Okay, so that's Richard's questions. Thank you, Richard, for that. Next we have Nerdopolis Prime, and he says, how many players are in your gaming community, and what do they play, systems and armies, etc.? Okay, so I don't have a very big gaming community at the moment. So I have one buddy, my Blood Angels buddy, and he plays Orcs and Blood Angels. And then he plays Man of War. He pretty much has all of the fleets. I think there's only one fleet that he doesn't have. I think it might be the Orcs that he doesn't have, but he's got all the others. And then he plays Blood Bowl, and again he's got quite a number of teams for Blood Bowl. So that's my main opponent. Now my buddy did introduce a couple of people into our gaming group. We've got one person who plays Attack Wing, and his nephew plays Attack Wing as well. We've got his nephew who plays Blood Bowl with us, and also Man of War. He used to play 40k, but he's sort of given that up now. And then one of his other friends who used to game with us quite heavily, he had Chaos Demons and Tau. Unfortunately, he has passed away fairly recently. From my point of view, I've got my son who used to play, and he's given it up. And of course Necron Girl, who I'm just starting to get into it. So the gaming group that we've got basically is incredibly small. And we do have one other friend as well who sometimes games with us. He plays a Grey Knight, he's got a Grey Knight army, but he works a lot of sort of odd shifts, so very often he's working when we play. So it is quite a small gaming group that we have. So thank you for the question, Nerdopolis Prime, I do appreciate it. Right, next we have Super Wargamer, and he says, do Genestealer lore sound like feminists to you? I don't know, because I've not really read the Genestealer lore. I don't really do fluff. Sorry, Super Wargamer, I can't actually answer the question, but thank you for the question anyway. Right, next we have XX, and he says, will you be getting the new Space Wolf Terminators? Be good for your 30k Heresy army. I didn't even know there was new Space Wolf Terminators, to be honest with you. I do have some Tartarus pattern Terminators, which I won from Mike from Crew Angelicis quite a long time ago, and they're going to make it into my Space Wolves army at some point. I'm going to chop them up and put some Chaos bits on there, because obviously my army's 13th company. But I don't really plan to get any more, so at the moment anyway. But yeah, thank you for the question. Talking of Space Wolves, next question is from Mythos, from Frost and Fists, and he says, let's talk babes in black and white. If you had to pick one, do you prefer Samantha or Janine, Bewitched or Dreams of Janine? Okay, thank you for the question, Mythos. Yeah, Bewitched, I remember watching it, I don't think it was the black and white version, and I've not actually heard or seen the second film series, TV series, so I can't actually answer this one either, unfortunately. But what I can tell you is one of my favourite movie stars is Liz Hurley, especially in Bedazzled and Austin Powers. Yeah, pretty hot. But yeah, I've got no real black and white babes really. Marilyn Monroe maybe? Yeah, I don't really know too many, to be fair. Okay, that's it. Thank you for the question, Mythos. So next question is from DZ Saber, and he says, favourite Doctors, up to 3 if you are a fan. So I'm assuming you're talking about Doctor Who rather than Star Trek Doctors. So Doctor Who, I've not really watched the current run of Doctors. I used to watch Doctor Who quite a lot when I was growing up, Tom Baker was definitely my favourite Doctor, and I loved K9. So I'm going to say Tom Baker was my favourite Doctor. And he says, what is your favourite Christmas tradition? Family Christmas tradition. So my favourite family Christmas tradition, apart from opening up presents, I suppose it's the Christmas dinner, Christmas meal. The turkey, roast potatoes, just sitting down, you've got your Christmas crackers, put your silly hat on, and you all eat together. And that's really nice. So that's my favourite Christmas tradition, I would say. He then says, nothing too heavy this month, because he gave me a heavy question last month. He says, I've read about Boxing Day, but was wondering, how does a typical family in the UK like yourselves actually celebrate Boxing Day? Or do you? Okay, well, I can't really speak for anyone else, but I can tell you how I celebrate Boxing Day, or some of the traditions on Boxing Day. Well, personally, I only get a couple of days off at Christmas, usually Christmas Day or Boxing Day, maybe one additional day if I'm lucky, and then I'm straight back to work. So Boxing Day for me is a bit of a relaxing day generally. So in the morning it'll be sort of play with the children, with all their new toys and stuff, and then our tradition is to have Bubble and Squeak for lunch on Boxing Day. If you're not sure what that is, that's basically all the leftover vegetables and potatoes and meat, although to be fair, we generally cook fresh vegetables and potatoes the next day, and then you sort of fry that together, not the meat, sorry, you fry all the other stuff together, and then that goes onto the plate with some cold meat, and then you have sort of pickle and pickled onions and cheese and stuff with it. So yeah, Bubble and Squeak, love it. In some cases actually more enjoyable than the Christmas meal for some reason. I'm not quite sure why, but I love Bubble and Squeak. And then just another sort of relaxation in the afternoon, maybe meet up with my mum or some other family members or some friends. And then in the evening we usually would have sort of turkey sandwiches for supper or for tea, and then maybe a few games like Ludo or something, and then yeah, back to work the next day usually. So usually Boxing Day is just sort of a more chilled, relaxed day, and then, as I said, traditionally Bubble and Squeak. If you've not had it yet, try it. Really, really nice. Okay, so thank you for the questions. Okay, so next question is from Daniel Grant, and he actually has a few questions. He says, if you were asked to create a new and original Star Trek series, 1, who would you cast as the captain? Doesn't have to be a previous cast member. 2, where in the timeline would you have it? 3, what would you do for an ongoing storyline? Note, you can carry on or expand on existing storyline. Okay, so if I was going to do Star Trek, say I was the new director or writer, whatever, of Star Trek, I would definitely go way in the future. I think Discovery should have been set in the future, but yeah, I would like to see sort of another 100 years in the future past the previous episodes that we've seen. I think that would be really awesome. We would have travelled further, we can introduce new species, new storylines. So that's where I would set it. In terms of the captain, who would I have as a captain? That is a tough one, to be fair. Who would I have as a captain? Who would I have? I don't know why I'm looking at the microphone. Okay, who would I have as a captain? Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. I don't know. Me! Me. Okay, yes, I would be the captain. Yeah. Can't actually think of anyone, so sorry about that, Grant. Okay, so the next question, he says, so your 10,000 subscriber milestone is fast approaching. Have you started planning what you would be doing for your milestone video, i.e. a channel, deathmatch, etc.? Who would win? Oh, that's another question. Okay, so of course I've hit 10,000 subscribers now, and I have the giveaway video already up. Check it out if you haven't done so already. 3 awesome prizes to be won. And that was my celebration video. I did think about doing the Necron army showcase for my 10,000 subscriber sort of celebrations, but I've decided to leave that for my 2,000th video celebration, and that will be up in about a week's time or so. So I'm very, very close to 2,000 videos. So yeah, thanks for that. And lastly, he says, who would win? Super Ted, Hong Kong Phooey, Banana Man, Captain Caveman and Batfink in a free-for-all fight? I love this question. I have a feeling you're very similar age to me. Super Ted, I don't think he would win. Hong Kong Phooey! Totally forgot about Hong Kong Phooey. I loved him as a kid. I even had his pyjamas. They were like the most annoying pyjamas in the world because they were like a karate outfit. I remember they were like silky and they were purple, and they had this belt, and you sort of tied the belt up, but the inside sort of kept coming out of the belt in the middle of the night. Really, really uncomfortable, but I still wore them because I loved them. So yeah, Hong Kong Phooey. Banana Man, yeah. Captain Caveman. Captain Caveman! Yeah, I used to like Captain Caveman. Batfink. I've heard of Batfink, but I don't actually remember watching Batfink. So who would win? It's got to be Hong Kong Phooey, just because I liked him the most. So I'm going to say Hong Kong Phooey. Thanks for the question and the reminder. I've totally forgotten about Hong Kong Phooey. Okay, so the next one is from Black Country Wargamer. Actually, this was on one of his Ask My Audience question. It was like an end of year roundup, and there's a few questions on here. So he says, favourite game of the year you have played? Favourite game of the year I've played is going to be, I'm going to say, Horus Heresy was my favourite game of the year, playing Ace Face. That game was just so awesome, and the end of the game came down to the last dice roll. It was 2 or more, and it was going to be a draw, a 1, and I was going to win. And what did Ace roll? A 1. The most fun game I've had this year, definitely. Really enjoyed that. I did have a great game of 8th edition with my buddy. He played his orcs and I played the Scarab Farm. That was an awesome game as well. But I'm going to say the game with Ace Face. That was my favourite game of the year. Worst game of the year you have played? The worst game? I'm just talking about just general games here. Then I'm going to say My Little Pony game out of a magazine. I enjoyed playing it with my daughter, but it was definitely the worst game I played. Yeah. Then he says, best model kit you have put together? I was going to say the Demon Prince, because I've had a lot of fun with that kit, but I think that's because of the conversion more than the actual kit itself. But it is an awesome kit. You get a lot of stuff in that kit. But I suppose maybe I should say the Praetorians, the Necron Praetorians, because that was an awesome kit, because you just get everything in there. You've got enough to make 2 different units with the 4 weapon options, everything in the box. Really, really awesome kit. So I'm going to say that was the best kit that I put together. Best purchase. My best purchase will definitely be my eBay lot that I won, with the Necron ones, with all the old school Necrons in. I can't remember how much I paid now for it. I think it was, I can't remember. I think it was £18–20, and I worked it out. It's like £120 worth of stuff that I got in that lot. So that was definitely my best purchase. Worst purchase. Okay, so my worst purchase has got to be the Chaos Index, purely for the fact that I didn't use it. I didn't even flick through the pages before it became obsolete. So that's going to be my worst purchase of the year, I think. And then he says, favourite series of videos that I've done or watched on YouTube. Favourite video series that I've done personally, I would say, oh, this is a hard one, because this year's been quite successful for me and the channel, and one of the reasons for that is the Necron series of videos that I've done. And I don't think they've been my favourite series. I think my favourite's been the Saved by Slaanesh. I've had a lot of fun making that, and obviously it's a new army, and I'm a bit of a noob with Chaos, so it's been great doing videos, asking questions and getting all the feedback from everyone, rather than me sort of sharing my knowledge. I'm trying to gain knowledge from you guys. So I think Saved by Slaanesh series has been my favourite of the year. Okay, and then he says, best channel I have discovered this year. I've discovered quite a number of channels this year, and I've done quite a number of shouts to those channels in my top 3 wargaming videos of the month. But there is one channel which I haven't as yet shouted out to, but I definitely will be, and that's the Gibbons. And I would say that's the best channel that I've discovered this year, because that guy is just amazing. He's all about the community. He's been watching our videos for a number of years. He's been into the hobby forever. He has a massive stash of models in the loft, which he's already showed us. Yeah, he's just a really awesome guy. He's just so pleased to be part of the community, and he's really getting involved and commenting on everyone's channels. And yeah, just a really great channel. I will put a link to his channel for you. I'll just put it there. Go and check him out if you haven't already. Yeah, the Gibbons. Great channel. Okay, so lastly he says, what upcoming releases are you most looking forward to next year? There's only one release that I am looking forward to, and that is
Necrons!
Of course, what else? Yeah, Necrons. Come on! Come on! Okay, we are now on the last page. So we have a question from Mammoth Minis, and he says, given how big a release Death Guard got, and that you're working on Emperor's Children, what brand new themed Emperor's Children vehicles would you like to see? In a similar vein to Death Guard got the mortar tanks, the bloat drones and the blight hauler. Okay, so thanks for the question. I don't necessarily want any particular new tanks or models for Emperor's Children, because I'm using all of the models that I already have. So that is the idea. I know I've gone out and I've got the Spellcrow stuff extra, but my idea behind the army was to use all of those models that have already been given or won. So I don't necessarily need any other models to come out or even thought about it. So yeah, I'm not really too bothered really about that. I mean, it would be great to see some dedicated Emperor's Children models and minis and accessory kits and whatever. I have a sneaky feeling it's not going to happen for some reason. I don't think there's going to be too much love for Slaanesh, but you never know. Okay, thanks for the question, Mike. Okay, so next we have Nurgling, and he says, is your name really IDICBeer? Because if it's true, that's totally awesome. Okay, well, it's not really IDICBeer, it's Nicholas Beer. Nicholas John Beer was my christened name. But yeah, IDICBeer, that is my name. Yeah. It's not too bad of a name, is it? Okay, so next we have For the Tsar. And he says, understanding tournaments have their point size restrictions. What is a decent point sized army to have? Okay, that's a great question actually. So, I personally would say you need to aim to have around 2,000 points of an army, and to have 2,000 points of an army and to be able to pick and choose units and maybe change your army out, I would suggest the ideal point level would be 3,000 points. So I would aim to have 3,000 points in your collection, and then have 2,000 point lists from that collection. That would be my advice on that one. Okay, so we're on to the last question from the Nerd Life, Richard, and he says, what's something you really wish they would bring out for Necrons? A past rule maybe, long gone, or a unit that they might need? Okay, great question. Thank you, Richard. Obviously we have had the few stratagems come out. It is really, really great to see Veil of Darkness. God knows why that disappeared, but we have it back. But I am looking for something particular in the new Necron Codex when it drops. Apart from the usual stuff, points reductions, etc. What I would love to see is a stratagem or a piece of war gear that allows us to have Nightmare Shroud. What I think that Nightmare Shroud should have, it should have the ability to make your opponent shoot at -1 ballistic skill for the turn. I think this really, really would help us out with maybe the Alpha Strike. If we can pop off Solar Pulse, beginning of the game, so for turn 1 we are protected a little bit. You know, might help those Night Scythes and Doom Scythes and what else we've got on the table survive. Because I think that's one issue we've got with Necrons, is we don't have particularly powerful units, and when we do have them, like say a unit of heavy destroyers, unless you hide them totally out of line of sight, they're very, very vulnerable to going down first turn. And I think maybe a Nightmare Shroud, -1 to everyone's ballistic skill, could potentially be the answer. Yeah, so that's what I'd love to see back, Nightmare Shroud. And that brings me to the end of the questions. So I really hope you enjoyed the video. Please put some more questions below so I can answer them in next month's video. And once again, a massive Happy New Year to you all. Beam me up.